I still remember the crisp scent of orange blossoms mixed with damp wood after the rain that afternoon. The city of Asheville had just cleared up in time before the guests arrived, leaving the backyard misty, strung with twinkling yellow lights like a fake net meant to catch insincere well-wishes. My mother, Lorraine, had planned the entire engagement party from start to finish. She told me I didn't need to worry about a thing, just to show up and smile. But I was 31, no longer the 18-year-old girl who believed everything her mother did was for her. Nearly 60 guests showed up, mostly distant relatives and colleagues of Elijah, my fiancé. Meanwhile, my close friends, except for Savannah, my younger sister, had all but disappeared from the guest list. When I asked, my mother simply shrugged. "You need a classy party, not a bar reunion." I was in the middle of a conversation with one of Elijah's aunts about wedding cakes when my mother appeared, lips painted wine red and eyes unusually bright. "For the beautiful bride-to-be," she said, holding out 2 glasses of Merlot. I took one, but as I brought it to my lips, there was something strange about the smell. It wasn't spoiled wine. The scent was faint, almost medicinal, but not distinct enough to name. My throat tightened. I glanced at my mother. She was smiling contentedly. I was about to set the glass down when Savannah walked up, grinning and teasing. "Looks like you're tipsy before the toast even starts. Let me try it first." I didn't even think, just smiled reflexively and rotated my wrist, handing the glass to her. "Ladies first," I said, trying to sound light. Savannah rolled her eyes, clinked glasses with me, and took a sip. My mother stood nearby, her eyes freezing for a split second, then turning away as if nothing had happened. 30 minutes later, while I was bending down to pick up a few candles the wind had knocked over near the buffet, I heard a scream from the bar area. "Savera!" I spun around, heart pounding. My sister was stumbling, her face pale as if drained of blood. One hand gripped the edge of the table, the other shaking violently. Her wineglass crashed to the floor. I rushed over, blood roaring in my ears as my mother screamed. Oh my God, she must have drunk too fast. She dropped to her knees beside Savannah, pulling tissues from somewhere and fanning her wildly, her tears not yet formed, but her expression already rehearsed. I stood frozen. A chill shot down my spine. Savannah was rushed to the emergency room. In the ambulance, my mother continued her act, playing the heartbroken parent, peppering the EMT with questions about allergies and blood pressure. I sat silently in the back, fists clenched, heart on fire. That glass of wine was meant for me. Everything had happened too fast, but that strange scent? I hadn't imagined it. I had smelled it. It wasn't wine. And now my sister was in the ER because of a drink my mother had handed to me. And the most chilling part, she didn't look surprised. Not even a little. I sat in the hospital waiting room, watching the fluorescent lights cast a pale glow on my skin. The air smelled of disinfectant and damp fabric, just like the times I visited my grandmother. Except this time, the person behind that white door was my sister, because of a glass of wine my mother handed to me. About an hour later, the doctor came out. He said Savannah had suffered an acute reaction to an unidentified substance. Tests were still underway. I nodded, trying to keep a calm expression while my stomach twisted like someone was tearing it apart from the inside. My mother stood behind me, arms crossed, no tears. She said just one thing, coldly. She hadn't eaten since morning. Maybe it's just low blood sugar. I couldn't bring myself to look at her. I was afraid if I did, I'd say something I couldn't take back. The next morning, I opened my phone to find a single message from the person who should have been by my side last night. "Kitty's Cafe just had a health inspection. Sorry I couldn't make it to the party. Your mom said you needed space. Hope you don't mind. Sender, Margot Tillman, my best friend since I was 17. I read it 3 times, not because it was hard to understand, but because that's not how Margot talks. She never uses that kind of robotic tone. She never calls me your. And most of all, she never apologizes for something she didn't decide herself. I tried calling. The line was busy. I sent another message. No response. Something was wrong. It wasn't just a gut feeling anymore. It was specific, sharp, like a small, cold blade that doesn't hurt at first until it's pulled out, leaving a wound that won't close. I called my dad, the only person in my family who had ever acted decently, even after divorcing my mom over a decade ago. He didn't pick up. I quickly texted, "Did Margot call you, or did anyone from the family reach out to her?" He called back not long after. "What are you asking?" His voice still the same, a little raspy from years of smoking. "Margot? Yeah? Your mom called her last week. Told her you were overwhelmed, showing signs of anxiety again. Said it'd be best not to stress you out." I dropped into the chair. "She said that to my friend? Not just her." He continued slowly. "She also called Elijah's cousin, the guy at that law firm. Said he should double-check the prenup. You? You okay?" I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because suddenly it all made sense. Every napkin, every guest, everything at that party had been chosen to ensure I had no one in my corner. She didn't just want to throw an engagement party. She wanted to rewrite the script of my life, where she's the director and I'm just the obedient lead. I froze, thinking back to everything I ignored the night before. None of my favorite songs played. Even Elijah, my fiancé of 3 years, seemed oddly distant all evening. I thought it was nerves, but now I knew. He'd been influenced, or at least convinced I was unstable, too emotional, hard to manage. I opened my laptop and scrolled to the original guest list Elijah and I had created. At least 8 of my friends weren't there. People I had submitted with full names, emails, addresses. They had been erased from everything. I tried Margot's number again. Still no answer. At that moment, one thing became painfully clear. If I hadn't switched that wine glass last night, I'd be the one in the ER right now. And if my mother was willing to do that in front of 60 people, what else had she done, quietly, that I still didn't know? I opened a blank document, titled it, "It Started with the Wine," because I knew this wasn't a suspicion anymore. This was a battle line, and she had already crossed it. Now it was my turn. I met Elijah on Monday afternoon, 3 days after the engagement party and 2 days after Savannah woke up. We met at a small cafe in the historic district, a place that used to be our regular weekend spot. But today, walking in, I felt no sense of comfort. Even the warm yellow lights felt cold. Elijah was already seated, his espresso nearly untouched. He looked at me with that awkward mix of guilt and hesitation, the kind that shows up when someone's carrying bad news and doesn't know where to start. "Your mom called me last night," I said first, my voice direct. "What did she say to you last week?" He set his cup down. "Ken, there's something I should have told you earlier." I crossed my arms, waiting. 3 days before the party, your mom asked to meet at the law office, the meeting room on the 3rd floor at Edgewood. He paused, checking my reaction. She said she wanted to go over details, plans, budget, timeline, but then I said nothing. He swallowed, then continued. 5 minutes in, she handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $10,000. My eyebrows rose, though my chest had already begun to tighten. She said if I truly cared about you, I'd quietly step out of your life, claimed you were unstable, emotionally reactive, and that if we got married, no one could save you from imploding. "What did you do?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. I refused, pushed the envelope back, but she didn't stop. Elijah bit his lip. She pulled out a copy of my old college incident report, that minor car accident with a classmate, the one I handled privately, off the record. I knew about it. A fender bender, resolved mutually. Elijah had told me before, but it had almost gotten him suspended that semester. She threatened to leak it to the local press if I didn't walk away. Said if I stayed with you, it would drag you down too. I leaned back in my chair. My hands were cold. That familiar disgust crept over me, not because of Elijah, but because I recognized the pattern. My mother always knew how to strike where it hurt the most, but this time she had aimed straight at my future. Why are you telling me now? I asked, eyes locked on him. I was scared, Elijah sighed. Scared you'd think I made it up, or worse, you'd defend her, because, well, you used to, remember? I clenched my hands. He wasn't wrong. I used to defend my mother at every turn. When she called my friend trashy, I said she was just worried. When she skipped my graduation, claiming a bad flu, I told myself she was just overworked. I was always the daughter trying to understand her, even when she never once tried to understand me. For the first time, I let out a long-waited sigh. I'm not defending her anymore. Elijah blinked, surprised. She's controlled too much, I continued. Not just me, but everyone I love. She thinks she's protecting, but all she's doing is building a prison. He nodded. I kept the envelope, didn't cash it. I figured you'd want to see it. That evening, I opened the envelope Elijah handed me. Inside was a handwritten check for $10,000, signed Lorraine M. Greaves. Beneath it, in neat clinical script, for transition support, as discussed. My mother's handwriting, precise, steady, cold like a discharge notice. I took a photo, then filed it away in a folder. I knew I needed to collect everything. And then, as if the universe sensed I needed just one more reason, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. No name. If he stays close, you'll regret it. Don't make Mom act again. I froze. Didn't call. Didn't reply. I just saved the number under the name, Evidence 1. I couldn't sleep that night. The shadow of that $10,000 check and the anonymous text haunted me like a stain that wouldn't wash away. I thought about all the times in my life I'd felt betrayed and blamed myself. But what if the real betrayal was never out there, but always inside my own home? The next morning, while making coffee, I got a message from an unknown number. This time, it wasn't a threat. It was a name so familiar it chilled me. It's been a long time. I saw the news about Savannah. Can we talk, Jared? I nearly spilled my coffee. Jared Hanley, the only ex I ever truly loved enough to consider marrying, my college boyfriend when I was 22, and the one who ended things in the most confusing and painful way. He disappeared without explanation, leaving only a cold, short email. I'm sorry. Don't look for me. And I didn't look. Because my mother, calm as ever, told me she'd discovered that Jared had once been reprimanded for inappropriate behavior with a professor. She even gave me a printed email snippet, hinting at disruptive conduct in class. At the time, I believed her. I texted back just 3 words, where to meet. Jared arrived 5 minutes late. He was still tall, his temples now graying, but his eyes. They were the same, only this time no longer bright, but clouded, like someone who'd lived with invisible pain for too long. I almost didn't reach out, Jared began, but when I saw the news about your sister and learned who hosted that party, I nodded, staying quiet, waiting. Back then, senior year, your mom contacted me, he said. Called my job at the bookstore, claimed to be your teacher, told me to stay away from you if I didn't want everything to fall apart. I frowned. Why didn't you tell me? Because 3 days later, I got summoned by the disciplinary board. Someone had anonymously accused me of plagiarizing my thesis. He looked at me, bitter. It was fake, but it cost me my end-of-term scholarship. She said if I kept seeing you, she'd file formal complaints to the grad schools I applied to. I went numb. How? How did I never know? Because your mom's good at this. Jared gave a dry laugh. And she sent you an email from me, didn't she? I looked at him, my chest tightening. Yes, I still remember. He nodded and pulled out his phone, opening a folder of saved images. I kept the original, my real email. Nothing in it matches what you got. I stared at the screen. His actual message was a heartfelt explanation, full of love and a promise not to give up. but I never saw it. I had cried for nights thinking Jared had betrayed me, but it had all been an elaborate setup. It took me 3 years to recover, Jared said softly. Lost my shot at the research program I'd dreamed of. But the worst part was not being able to protect you from what's happening now. I couldn't respond. My throat felt like sandpaper. That night, I opened the old chest in the attic, filled with handwritten letters, journals, Polaroids, and trinkets I once thought were meaningless. At the bottom, tucked in a cream-colored notebook, I found a photo. Savannah in high school, sitting next to a girl with wavy brown hair, their hands gently intertwined. I vaguely remembered her, Liza, from Savannah's junior year. And then one day, she disappeared from our lives like she'd never existed. I brought the photo downstairs and showed it to Savannah, still recovering from everything. Do you remember Liza? She was silent for a long time, then gave a faint nod. We were together for almost a year, she said quietly. But when Mom found out, she called Liza's house, threatened to go to the school board, said if her family didn't transfer her, she'd spread rumors about inappropriate behavior in the locker room. My God, I whispered. Then she made me go to counseling, Savannah continued, eyes dry and steady, forced me to sign a voluntary admission for adolescent behavioral issues. That record is still out there, tagged under my name. I sank into the chair, overwhelmed. Once again, what I thought was protection was just her fear weaponized into chains, wrapping around us, forcing us to live the life she deemed acceptable. I turned to Savannah and said gently, "It's time we cut those chains." And for the first time, I saw her nod, not with resignation, but with quiet determination. I hadn't planned on returning to the engagement party venue, but after everything Jared and Savannah told me, I realized one thing: if I didn't retrace the steps myself, no one else would. And I needed evidence. Not to convince others, not yet, but because I needed to believe myself. I drove to Bradbury Estate, where the party was held, a European-style lodge overlooking the southern Asheville vineyards, strung with fairy lights my mother once called the lights of a new life. Now, they just looked fake to me. I met Nora, the event coordinator, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and the blunt voice of someone who's wrangled hundreds of chaotic weddings. I can't release any security footage to someone who didn't sign the contract, she said, flipping through her clipboard. And in this case, that's your mother. I understand, I replied, pulling out a business card posing as my legal representative. Jared had helped me draft a formal data preservation request as a party concerned about a health incident during the event. Nora hesitated. I don't want any trouble, she said more quietly. We have footage from the prep kitchen, wine storage, and part of the hallway to the patio. I nodded. All I need is footage from 5 o'clock to 6:30 that evening. 3 hours later, I received an email with the extracted clips. My eyes locked onto the timestamp, 5:37 p.m., the exact moment my mother entered the prep kitchen, carrying her familiar gray leather purse. The footage wasn't crystal clear, but it was enough. I watched as she opened her purse and pulled out a small clear glass bottle. She bent down, selecting 2 pre-poured wine glasses. Then, quickly and deliberately, she tilted the bottle and added a few drops of clear liquid into one of them. She tucked the bottle back into her purse, stirred the glass gently with a metal spoon, wiped the rim with a napkin, and smiled at her own reflection in the oven door. I don't remember exactly what I felt watching it. Anger? No. It was a coldness, like ice crawling down my spine. A mother doesn't do that by accident. And that smile didn't belong to someone who just wanted what's best for her child. That night, Savannah and I made a checklist of everything we needed to investigate. I searched local pharmacies near where my mother lived, checking purchase dates, and at a private pharmacy in Hendersonville, I found a prescription issued by a general physician. Medication name? Lorazepam. Savannah recognized it instantly. That's what Mom used to make me take after the breakup with Liza. She said it helped balance emotions. I snap a picture of the prescription slip. The issue date? Just 4 days before the engagement party. I also found 2 sealed blister packs of lorazepam in Mom's bathroom cabinet, tucked beneath moisturizers and eye creams. A third pack? Empty. I said nothing, just quietly placed everything into a zip bag, the prescription slip, photos, and the empty pack. The next morning, as I prepared to send the compiled evidence to a law firm Jared recommended, another anonymous message came in, this time with an audio file attached. A woman's voice, low, sharp. It was my mother. When she drinks it, it's done. She'll feel tired, out of it. No one will question a thing. Savannah might stir up drama, but that's fine. Kennedy always trusts me. She always lets me clear the path. I sat frozen in my living room. The recording ended with the distinct clink of glasses. I didn't know who sent the recording, but I knew one thing. It was time to lay everything out. On my desk, I organized the pieces. Video footage from Bradbury Estate. Photos of the lorazepam prescription. Image of the empty pill pack. Audio recording of her voice. Email from Jared. Savannah's 2014 journal entry, detailing her forced behavioral correction therapy. I named the folder on my laptop Retaliation Files, Phase 1. I chose Sunday afternoon for the family dinner, not because everyone was free, but because that's when my mother always believed she controlled everything, the menu, the seating, the topics of conversation. This time, I let her think she still did. I set the table in my small apartment for 6. Me, Savannah, my mother Elijah, my dad Luke, and Aunt Ava, my dad's sister, the only one in the family who ever dared to say no to my mom without being cut off. I made chicken pot pie, my mom's so-called signature dish, as a quiet reminder that today I was the one in the kitchen. Lorraine arrived right on time, navy dress, pearl necklace, holding a tin of Danish butter cookies, not the kind I liked, but the kind she insisted everyone loves. "You still know how to set a table properly," she smiled. "Must have learned that from me." I didn't respond. I didn't even look at her. I looked straight at Savannah and gave a small nod. The living room lights dimmed. The TV lit up. Before my mother could sit, the screen flashed. Footage from Bradbury Estate. Lorraine in the prep kitchen, pulling a tiny bottle from her purse, dropping something into one of 2 wine glasses, stirring it, wiping the rim, then smiling at her reflection in the oven door. Every motion, clear, calculated, cold. Elijah held his breath. My father slowly set his glass down. Ava turned toward me, eyes sharp as a blade. "S is edited," Lorraine snapped, her voice no longer sweet. "What are you doing, Kennedy?" I said nothing. The next image appeared, a photo of the lorazepam prescription, dated 4 days before the party. Then came the audio. "Once she drinks it, it's done. She'll be tired, dazed. No one will suspect a thing." Savannah began to cry, but didn't look away from the screen. "Enough!" Lorraine slammed her hand on the table. "You're trying to humiliate me." "No," I said slowly. "I'm just putting the truth back where it belongs." "You don't understand," she raised her voice. "I was trying to save you from another mistake. Elijah isn't right for you, and you're out of control, like before, remember? You planned to save me by drugging me?" I looked her in the eye. "You've always protected your reputation, but never me." She turned to Savannah. "And you? Are you siding with her now?" Savannah stood, her eyes were red. "Back then, you gave me the same drug. You called it a stabilizing treatment. But really, you just wanted to break me, so I wouldn't love who I loved, so I wouldn't choose anything you didn't approve of." Silence. Elijah squeezed my hand under the table. My dad sat frozen, face pale like he'd just swallowed stone. Moraine gave a bitter laugh. "You two are ungrateful. I've sacrificed so much for you, and this is how you repay me? Dragging me into some twisted intervention like I'm a criminal?" Ava shifted closer to the table. "Lorraine," I wasn't going to get involved, but this time you've crossed a line. With all this evidence, how long do you think you can keep denying it? Lorraine stood abruptly, voice tight through her teeth. You want to destroy me? Fine, but don't expect anything else from me. No more family, no more inheritance. We never had your love, I said, clear and calm. And if dignity and safety are the price of your wealth, I don't want it. She turned sharply, yanking her purse off the chair, but at the door she stopped. Looked at me, that familiar look, icy, calculating, like she was already planning her next move. You think you've won, Kennedy? She said quietly. This game is far from over. She slammed the door behind her. No one spoke for several minutes. Then Savannah broke the silence, her voice raspy. You know what? There's something I haven't told you yet. I turned to her. That night at the party, she swallowed hard, I was pregnant. The table went completely still. And what Mom gave me, she whispered, almost took it all away. I stared at Savannah, feeling the air in my lungs drain out. I thought I'd uncovered everything. I was wrong. So wrong. 3 days after the confrontation dinner, I got an email from the Midwest Women's Photography Collective, a group I'd been working with on a portrait series about emotional recovery. The theme was inspired by my own experience and Savannah's. The subject line read, Partnership Suspended Temporarily. I opened it, skimmed the lines. The tone was polite. We have recently received several anonymous emails alleging unprofessional conduct by Ms. Kennedy Graves in both personal and work settings. We are reviewing the matter to protect the organization's reputation. I knew instantly who was behind it. I froze for a few seconds, then opened a new browser tab, logged into my personal account, scanned my recent posts, messages, comments. Nothing unusual. But when I typed my own name, Kennedy Greaves, into the search bar, another account appeared, @KenGreaves95. Profile picture, an old cropped college photo of me, clearly taken from a group shot. Bio, been through darkness, learning to start over. Don't try to understand me. I clicked in, post after post, full of venom. Cryptic captions like, if they knew my darker side, would they still clap? Some things I've done were to protect my family, even if it meant losing people. There were private photos no one should have had, a shot of me crying in my car, Savannah in a hospital bed, and a clip of Elijah and me arguing in a parking lot last year, cropped, out of context. Below were dozens of comments from accounts that looked staged, like they were planted there on purpose. I gripped my mouse, my heart pounded. A stranger couldn't have this kind of access, only someone close, or someone who used to control everything in this family. That evening, Savannah got a message from an unknown number. You should focus on your pregnancy instead of digging up old messes. Some things are better buried. No name, no profile pic, just one message, and it disappeared. She called me immediately, voice shaking. I told her to screenshot it. Then I got one too. This time, an email. You'll lose everything if you keep exposing the one who gave you life. Ask Elijah what people think of you after that dinner. I forwarded it to Jared. He's been helping me archive all the evidence. He ran a quick metadata check and confirmed. The IP address traced back to Falls Grove, where my mother lives. The next day, Elijah called. His voice was tight. Ken, there's a problem. I stood up from my chair, my chest clenched. My production deal in Denver just got paused, he said. Someone sent them a series of controversial photos of me, along with an anonymous complaint about erratic behavior at work. I stayed quiet. My own photo was me holding that wine glass at the engagement party, he continued. They framed it like, how many lies can one toast hide? I sank into my chair. Then softly he added, I'm not sure. But the wording, the way they dug into my past, it sounds like your mom. Cold, calculated. I reopened my files, created a new folder, Counterattack Phase 2. Too bright. I added screenshots of the fake account, the threatening messages to Savannah, the anonymous emails to me and Elijah, and the metadata proof from Falls Grove. Every item was labeled, timestamped, archived. I knew I couldn't rely on the law just yet, but I could document everything, meticulously, systematically, without leaving gaps. Because this time, she wasn't just trying to control me, she was trying to erase me. That night, Aunt Ava called. Ken, someone just contacted the school board where Savannah used to attend. They're reopening her psychological treatment records, questioning her mental stability. My hand nearly dropped the phone. She's not just targeting reputations, Ava said. She's going after Savannah's right to be a mother. I looked up at the old photo of me and Savannah when we were little, standing on the porch, messy hair, holding hands, grinning like nothing could ever go wrong. She couldn't steal that memory, but if I didn't act, she'd take everything else. I sent Jared a single line. We begin phase 3. Log everything. No loose ends. I spent nearly a week editing the video. Not because I lacked footage, but because every frame, every word, every second had to be delivered with cold precision. No drama, no bitterness, just truth. I titled it, The Mother in the Mirror, A Scripted Life. It opened with my voice, faceless, recounting the engagement party, the wine glass, and my mother's unblinking stare. Then came the security footage from Bradbury Estate. Faces blurred just enough to avoid lawsuits, but still clear enough to show Lorraine pouring a liquid into the glass. Then came the photos, the lorazepam prescription, the anonymous threatening email, screenshots from the fake account, the message to Savannah, and finally, the audio. She just needs to drink it, then it's done. I layered in Elijah's testimony about the $10,000 check, and Jared's, my ex-boyfriend whose career she sabotaged for being beneath her daughter. The final voice was Savannah's, shaky but firm. I almost lost my child because of someone who calls herself a mother. We posted the video at 8 p.m. Friday on a brand new YouTube channel, Kennedy Speaks. By the next morning, it had over 40,000 views. By noon, it crossed 110,000. The comments came in like a flood. Mothers shared stories of emotional abuse from their in-laws. Young women said they'd been called crazy just for choosing a different path. One wrote, I lived in a glass box for 28 years. Thank you for shattering it for me. I didn't reply to a single comment. But I read every one, because I finally knew I wasn't alone. 2 days after the video dropped, Savannah's former high school issued a statement. They publicly apologized for reopening her old counseling files and promised an investigation into outside interference. Savannah read it in silence, then turned to me and whispered, I never thought this day would come. My father, Luke, called that Monday at noon. He rarely called, even rarer, emotion. You did the right thing, he said, no matter how painful. I stayed silent. I thought I was protecting you by staying quiet, he continued, but all I did was help her keep hurting you. I nodded, as if he were right in front of me. We didn't need many words, but that sentence, from him, was a step toward healing. By midweek, Lorraine's Facebook account was deactivated. The community groups she once moderated removed her. The local women's club, where she was treasurer, released a short statement. Due to serious ethical allegations, Mrs. Lorraine M. Greaves will suspend all activity pending formal review. No one defended her. No one posted in her favor. No more anonymous messages. No more, this should stay private. Because now everyone understood this wasn't just a family matter. This was the story of an entire generation, controlled by those who were supposed to love us unconditionally. 3 weeks later, Savannah and I attended a community forum on mental health and family trauma at the local university. I didn't plan to speak, but when the host asked, has anyone here had to break free from family control? Savannah stood up. Yes, she said. I was forced into therapy for loving a girl, drugged with sedatives from a wine glass that wasn't even mine. And I'm still here, because for the first time, I get to choose my own voice. The room was silent, then came the applause. I couldn't hold back my tears. Not from pain, but because for the first time I saw my sister standing tall, not hiding, not afraid, not asking anyone's permission to exist. We moved out of Asheville a month later. I relocated to Durham, starting a new job at a family Sankrati studio. Savannah lives less than a 10-minute drive from me. Elijah and we're still together, not perfect, but real. And Lorraine? I've heard she still lives in the same house, no longer seen at church, no longer attending women's groups. Some say she shops early in the morning, sunglasses on, avoiding eye contact. I heard she once filed a lawsuit against me for defamation, but after watching the video, her attorney declined to represent her. I don't feel triumphant, I just feel free. Because the only power she has left is silence. And this time, that silence belongs to me. My story isn't meant to smear a mother. It's meant to expose a truth that too many are silently enduring. Emotional abuse can come from those closest to us, disguised as twisted love and control. When I chose to break the silence, I didn't just save myself, I helped my sister reclaim her voice. The truth isn't always gentle, but it is always the first step toward freedom. And sometimes, the only way to heal is to name what hurt you. What are your thoughts on Kennedy's journey and the truth hidden behind that picture-perfect family image? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful, real-life stories about family, healing, and hard truths.